Hey everyone, Stefan Future here, once again from the attic, and today I wanted to show you a little collaboration project I did together with Chris from Rware. He makes modules for the Voltage Modular environment. It's called Neon Hologram. It's a creative chorus effect. This module is free as well, so you can grab that right along with the environment. So Voltage Modular, made by Cherry Audio, is a instrument but also an effects VST, so you can also use it as an effect, for instance, for your guitar and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool module, I think. We did our best to make it very creative and interesting, so we're looking forward to seeing what you do with it. So if you use it anywhere, please tag us and let us know, because we're looking forward to seeing what you can do with this. So let's not get too rambly, let's just dive straight into the DAW and let's show you what it is and show you some demos. So here we go.
And welcome to the DAW. Now, before we get into the new hologram, we need to shortly discuss what a chorus is, and don't worry, this won't take long at all. For this demonstration, we have Vital with a saw wave. And all we need to do to make a chorus is add a delay. So we add a tiny bit of delay with Sandman Pro. And now we modulate the delay time. And to get the best results, you want to use just a little bit of modulation. You can use the speed. And amplitude to get wider effects, but usually you keep this pretty small, and that's the very basics of what chorus does. Of course, there's a little bit more to it once you get to the more advanced choruses, but that's the basic. It's a delay with a modulated delay time. So let's see how that applies to our little buddy here, Neon Hologram. And for this we are going to start with the basic controls. So let's talk about these first three controls. The first one is of course the wet-dry control. And we have the drift and we have the force. These are the three basic controls. Now the drift control controls the delay modulation amount, so how much the delay is modulated. And the force is how much the delay is. So if we put on just a tiny bit of drift, but no force, it will not modulate because there is no force. So if we add a little bit of force, there we go. We need to add a little bit of speed to the modulation, of course. But because the drift is very low, there's not much modulation going on. And now we can see it start moving around a little bit. And once we make the delay bigger, you will see more movement. Fun thing here is you can actually throw off the drift. He will keep the force as a delay. And of course the wet-dry controls just how much of the signal is dry and how much of the signal is wet. So with these three controls, let's see what kind of sounds we can get, and then we'll move on to the more advanced sounds. So with those basics out of the way, let's move into some of the more advanced controls. So right next here to the speed, we have the hyperdrive. Now usually the speed is limited to LFO speeds. Still pretty fast LFO speeds, but once you kick in the hyperdrive, you can actually go into audio rate all the way up to C5. And because I'm playing a C, it actually works out every so often with the right frequency. Now, hyperdrive is a bit tricky because if it's out of key, it gets pretty weird pretty quickly, but that makes it a good tool for sound design purposes. And if you're really keen on modulating parameters, if you keep this parameter in tune with your sound you're playing, you can do some pretty amazing stuff. Hey there, Future Me here, just quickly interrupting. So in development, we decided it would be nice to have this a built-in feature, so we added a CV here. And you can actually send pitch into this CV to make the hyperdrive track. So that's a pretty cool feature. So let's quickly demonstrate it without. Sounds pretty bad. And if I get my pitch CV in here, it's offset. So if you detune it, and this also works with pitch bending, so let's quickly find a good tuning. There we go. So that's going to save you some automation. All right, let's carry on. For the time being, let's just speed it down a little bit. Also, you can hear at the beginning it's still in those LFO speeds. So if you don't mind doing micro movements, you can actually just leave hyperdrive on, so you have a little bit more room to play with. If you want a bit more precision, you can turn on the hyperdrive and it gets a little bit easier to tweak the knob. Right next to hyperdrive, you find the LoFi. LoFi is a filter. It low passes the signal down to 12 kilohertz at the max setting. And it adds a bunch of noise, stereo noise, and it drives the saturator. It also intensifies the flux effect, which we will touch on later. Now, lo-fi is a little bit hard to hear on saw waves, so I will play through it, but I will show it a little bit better in the guitar demo a little bit later on. Not the best knob to demonstrate with saw waves. But we'll touch on it once we get to the guitar part, so don't worry too much about it. Right next to the lo-fi we have the flux. Flux adds randomness to the LFOs, kind of creating a little bit more of a random pattern instead of the standard sine wave. It's also not the easiest to hear on every sound source, but once again we'll go through it and then I will demonstrate it on some other sound sources to give you a little bit of a better idea of what it sounds like in context. Not the easiest to hear effect in this context, but we'll hear it a little bit later on. So right underneath the flux you will find the aberration, which is named after chromatic aberration, an effect you can find in some camera lenses, especially cheaper lenses or near the edge of the image. You can get some color fringing where the light diffracts it certain ways. So you get a blue and a red fringe, or sometimes a bit of green in there. What the aberration does is Neon Hologram actually runs 3 delay lines. With aberration set at 0, these 3 delay lines overlap, and once you crank up the aberration, 2 of the delay lines will move away from the center delay line, one a little bit earlier, one a little bit later, just like the chromatic aberration effect. So we'll have the red fringe and the blue fringe, and in the center the delay you set with the force. This will actually bring it a little bit into that tri-chorus sound, which is pretty popular in the 80s. So let's get that going, and let's listen to that for a second. And let's just dial in a little bit of tri. So that's a very cool effect to play around with, especially in conjunction with the flux. You can get some very nice sounds out of it. These parameters are also modulatable with CV. If we move down just a little bit lower, right in between the in and outputs, we have a little feedback knob. Now, feedback combined with chorus brings it into that flanger realm, which is a very cool additional sound you can get out of this. So let's put all the other knobs down a little bit, and let's listen to a little bit of feedback. That's cool. And if you move to the other right side, you will get a negative version of that with the inverted signal. And with just one simple effect, you can create some interesting sounds with a saw wave. So that's an overview of all the basic knobs and bells and whistles of the Neon Hologram chorus, and like Flanger if you mess with the feedback a little bit. Let me show you all these extra features combined in some demos, and then we'll talk about a few little less obvious things that Neon Hologram does, which can be important if you're going to use it with bassy sounds and stuff like that. But first, let's get into the next sound demo. So this is where I had planned to do a little bit of a guitar demo, but sadly the jack of my guitar is not working anymore. So that's sad. I guess it's up to you guys to make a guitar demo. I think this video is long enough anyway, so I hope you enjoy new Hologram. I hope you have a lot of fun with it. Let us know when you do, and if you do. And hopefully within a few weeks we'll have some more interesting releases to talk about. So that's it for now.